Now, of course, this is all alleged and we don't know why. It does look, though, Janet, as if the two sisters have different relationships with their parents. Just what is not uncommon. I mean, you were two sisters. Did you have a different relationship with your parents from each other?
Oh, yeah, we had very much so. And I remember growing up feeling that my mum was all over my sister and my dad and I were a bit of a team. I mean, we weren't a particularly close, cuddly, you know, demonstrative family, but in our house, I played, and my dad took me to football, for example, from the age of 10. I was on the football terraces with my dad because he'd obviously wanted a boy and he got me, but I do as a companion. And I went to Speedway with him and I had a train set and I did, Hornby 00 train set and I did Meccano. So I was obviously very boyish in my ways. But looking at the...
I know we say boyish, don't we?
Boyish.
Because were you boyish or were you just, you know, that kind of girl who was forceful?
Yeah, I was just expressing myself, I think. It was all very positive for me and I didn't feel any different to the other kids at school. But looking at Beatrice and Eugenie, I mean, one is struck that both the girls are rather more adult in many ways than their parents. It can't be easy having Andrew and Sarah Ferguson as your mum and dad. And I can only imagine...
They've had a lot of privilege having...
They've had a lot of privilege, but they've had a lot of embarrassing headlines to deal with, especially about their mother's antics and their dad's business dealings. I mean, so both parents have attracted a lot of attention. And it's interesting to note that Beatrice actually doesn't live in this country anymore. She's with her husband in Portugal, I believe. And also, Beatrice is the patron of a charity that wants to fight sex trafficking. And after the Jeffrey Epstein case was made public, she made a large donation to one of those charities. So you can see where she's coming from, and it must have been really, if it's true...
Well, that's the thing.
We don't know, but it must have been a really tough decision to take.
But you wonder, I mean, like, families are families. Obviously, they're a very privileged family, and that's a very sort of particular story. But at the end of the day, we all have to kind of try and get on. And it's interesting you were saying that you and your sister had different relationships with your parents. I mean, I keep forgetting. How many other of you?
8 kids.
8, right, OK. Presumably, you all had different relationships.
Very different. I mean, my 3 eldest sisters couldn't get over what I was allowed to get away with because when they were growing up, you know, my dad was super strict. They weren't allowed to go out. They certainly weren't allowed to mention boys or go out with boys till well after they were 21. I mean, there was just wasn't allowed. By the time I was 15, I was there like, yeah, in the club. But, yeah, so it was very, very different. But I think with 8 kids, he probably just got bored being strict by the 8th one and thought, just let her do what she wants. And times had changed, and he knew that I had older siblings that would be there and look after me. So
but did that affect your relationship with them?
I'm sure it did. I mean, I'm sure there was times when they felt probably resentful of that, you know, how
did they think you were spoiled?
To do that. Well, I had this discussion with Maureen, my sister, not so long ago, and she said she doesn't think I was ever... She said, I never, ever heard you have a tantrum or crying or you were just so laid back. So sometimes I forgot... Well, they left me in a club once after a gig.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How old were you?
9.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Just before...
Remember David Cameron got into trouble for that one?
Yeah. Drove home and counted them as they got out the van and went, where's Colleen? And they went, we've left her at the club.
Brenda, it's you and a brother, yeah?
Yeah, me and my brother Rodney. I mean, firstly, with Tanisha, I can really only speak about my parenting with my kids. And obviously, there's a 3-year difference between Jamal and Tanisha. And I know that I was different in raising them. Because Jamal was the firstborn. Right. But I was raised with my brother as in he's the boy, so he can do more things. Right. Whereas I wasn't allowed to do more things like go out and go to a community centre or whatever that is. But I don't think that it affected mine and my brother's relationship. I think because of, obviously, the grief that we'd both shared, and we're the only ones who have been through losing both of our parents, it's more like he's my older brother, but I always feel like I'm protecting him, even though I know he's protecting me as well and looking out for me in that way. But we've never had any fallouts. We've never had any arguments.
Isn't it?
And I think, well, I think it's, I don't know if it's a case of, I always think there's somebody worse off than me, even though I've been through stuff. It's not, you know, you can get through that if you've got someone to get through it together.
And when you say that you parented Jamal and Tanisha differently, how differently?
Well, I've said many times I'm strict. I'm a very strict parent. But I think it was just, when I say I parented them, my style was different. I was much stricter with Jamal because I wasn't allowed to do certain things. So I was just like, you're not doing it. It's just a blanket no. And then when Tanisha came, I just was a bit more freer with the reins because I think that I'd learnt from my mistakes and it was just learnings from seeing Jamal how he was raised, and you know Tanisha was very good at going, oh, and so you know and the baby eyes, and it would just melt me, and so I'd just say yes. But I think I was very keen to change how I'd been raised and to, you know.
Do you have a different relationship with your three?
Yeah, I mean, I love all of them exactly the same, but for completely different reasons. So they all have things that I think of in my life. If I'm looking for logic and someone to calm me down when I'm stressing about something, I'll always phone Jake. You know, when I want to just laugh all day and have such good fun, it's Shane. And Kira basically runs my life and sorts my whole life out. She's like my mother. She grounds me and everything, So she's my stalwart, like she cooks for me and everything. But they've all got different things that I go to them for.
I know, but it's funny you say that because, like you say, Janet, from the outside, it kind of looks as if Eugenie and Beatrice have become the grown-ups in that relationship. Now, of course, we don't know. We have no idea.
But there were pictures of them in the street when they had lunch recently, and they were hugging each other. There's no doubt they are very, very close, and it will be very, very tough to have this going on. You know, in their lives, and it's something they can't get away from, and you know they can't ignore either.
No, they have to deal with it.